Hey there, Earthlings. Thanks for tuning in to the Bardo Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Bardo, where we talk about health, happiness, and anything else that's important to us humans. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast by visiting thebardo.com or just click the little subscribe button wherever you listen to the podcast. And be sure to check out my Instagram at thebardo for all the latest videos and content. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode.
It's just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, what's happening? So today's a kind of an interesting episode. I think you guys are going to kick out of it. I talked to Daryl Bajati, who is a dude who reached out to me from a podcast that I did with the Volo Foundation, if you guys are familiar. So the Volo Foundation is a climate change organization I've worked with before and done some collabs, and I was on their podcast. So he actually emailed me from that. Daryl apparently and I have a lot of things in common. You know, he has Crohn's disease as well, just like I do, but he's had it since he was a kid, like 7, 8 years old. So I talked to him about that, and it's super interesting, his journey. Even if you don't, know anyone with Crohn's or any type of disease, I think you'll get a kick out of this, and I think you'll get some value from it because we talk a lot about eating healthy and eating healthier. So I'm obviously plant-based, and that helped me with my Crohn's disease. He is not. He eats whatever he wants, but there's a way that he manages it that really helps him. So I think everyone's going to get some value out of this. We also dip a little bit about the pandemic and kind of how we've reacted to that, each of us. He lives in Florida, so we talked a lot about what it's like living in Florida and going outside and being active and, maybe doing some meditation. So overall, it was a really cool conversation to get to know Daryl. I'll leave his information in the description below, but again, I really enjoyed this chat. I think you guys will get a kick out of it. Before we get into today's episode, I do want to thank our friends over at Golden Ratio. I've talked about it before. I posted on Instagram. They now have a golden milk, which is very common in the coffee world, if you're familiar with that term. Golden milk is a mix of turmeric, black pepper, and a little bit of vanilla. But the cool thing with Golden Ratio is they don't just have one flavor. They have vanilla coconut, they have a spiced chai, they have a cookie, a chocolate mint, which is one of my favorites. They have all these types of flavors of coffee. It doesn't drink like coffee. It actually drinks more like a tea. What they've ended up doing at Golden Ratio is they slow roast all their coffee beans, so it's a lot more smooth. It's not as rough and bitter tasting as coffee. It's actually 5 times less acidic than your regular coffee. But I know what you're thinking. What about the caffeine? You don't sacrifice any caffeine because it has the exact same amount of caffeine as a regular cup of coffee. Visit drinkgoldenratio.com. Give them a shot. If you want a big discount, use the code TheBardo. You will not regret it. Check out all their flavors, and you're going to get a discount on your entire purchase if you use the code TheBardo at drinkgoldenratio.com. And this episode is also brought to you by Superfat. I will talk to you about these cats until I'm blue in the face. Superfat.com has everything you need for a keto, vegan, and paleo-friendly diet. For any type of lifestyle, doesn't matter. Superfat.com is the place to go. They have keto cookie bites, tons of different flavors. They have great baking mixes like pancake and brownie mix, so you can do it yourself at home with only just a couple ingredients. And my personal favorite is the nut butter. Now they have 10-ounce nut butter jars, everything from cacao coconut flavors, even macadamia nuts. So it's not peanut butter. It's all the nuts that are beneficial to your body. Visit superfat.com, use the code Barardo10. You're going to get 10% off your entire order. I recommend giving the variety pack a shot. That we could try all the different flavors. But whatever you want, put it in the cart. Barardo10. You're going to get 10% discount. So thank you, Superfat, as always. Love you guys. But without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Everyone, please help me welcome Daryl Bajati. Bajati. I should have got that right. Is that Italian?
Yes, it is.
Well done, sir. Way to be a man.
Yes. I figured Paisan.
That's right, dude. That's right. Yeah, everybody, especially now, there's so much pressure on me because I don't know if you said you don't have social media, right?
No,
Except LinkedIn.
just LinkedIn, really.
All right, that's all right. That's all you need. Social media is too crazy anyway. It's just a plethora of bad news usually. But I have an Instagram account, and I just created a brick oven pizza. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm Italian as well, but there's so much pressure on me now because every time I post a picture or cook a pizza, there's, you know, they're always busting balls being like, you know, hey, this better be a good pizza. And, you know, it's always good. It always ended up good. But, yeah,
Awesome.
it's good. So where you out of, actually? Are you in Orlando as well?
So I'm actually over in West Palm.
Oh, West Palm. So you're
Yeah.
closer to the Volo Foundation, right? Is that that's how you originally heard about me? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually was on their sort of email blast and
Oh, cool.
randomly selected, no offense, it goes into the spam folder. And then I saw the podcast with you on it, and I was like, reading your profile a little bit, I'm like, man, this guy sounds cool. We have a similar background, especially talking about the Crohn's and your diet. And so, yeah, I just wanted to reach out to, see if there's some crossover between both of us that we can learn from each other.
No, for sure, man. No, I'm glad you reached out because I haven't really been too public with my Crohn's until I think we talked about this in an email. But so I was diagnosed about 4 years ago, and well, actually, I was probably diagnosed 4 years ago, but I've started having really bad issues like 7 years ago, and then I was hospitalized a couple times for it, and every time I go, they just they'll do a CT scan and they'll say, oh yeah, you're backed up. Just take, what do they give me? What's that? It's the over-the-counter, like clear, like laxative almost. It's like citron or it's like citron phosphate or something. I don't know. It's just a glass. It looks like water.
Yeah, exactly.
And they gave me that. They're like, yeah, just take that. You're fine. Well, literally every 3 months after that, I kept going to the hospital, and then I was like, all right, I need to see a specialist. So then finally I saw a couple gastrologists. I kind of saw them throughout the whole state, and a friend of a friend, and they're both kind of in the gastrology world, and apparently one of the top ones in Florida. So I reached out to him, and eventually he diagnosed me, and that was 4 years ago. Been on and off medication. I finally got off of it about a year and a half ago. And it was only because I started kind of doing that elimination diet that I was talking about, so where I figured plant-based was the best thing that worked for me. After eliminating red meats and after eliminating, nuts and grains and gluten and all that, and dairy, eventually I figured out after, these 3-4 years that going vegan's the way to go. I'll occasionally have like an egg every now and again or something like that. And I have honey. So all you vegan folks out there, you can stop the blasting and the hate. Yes, I have honey, and I know it's cruel. I get it, but, I like honey. So I'm not fully vegan, I guess you could say, for those hardcore veganites. But, yeah, man, that's been 2 years,
Gotcha.
2 years in the making, and I got off my medication. And I'll occasionally have, like, episodes here and there, but nothing as crazy as what it has been in the past. So.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What made you get off of the medication?
I was on Humira. I don't know if you've, I mean, I'm sure
I
you
was
heard of
as
it.
well.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's what my doctor recommended. And I was still having episodes, but I wanted to try to go in remission and just eliminate it as best I could. And he said, this helps and the success rate, yada, yada, yada. I did research. Obviously, there's some side effects with everything. And it kind of terrified me a little bit, but I really wasn't having a lot of issues on Humira. So I was on it for about a year. The biggest thing that got me to just stop it like cold turkey, according to him, was I had some pretty bad rashes and reactions to it. Not just around the injection site, which is just the leg. And I got this rash, and it wasn't too bad. And then after about 6 to 8 months, then it started getting really bad. I was getting infections, and I had to, get on antibiotics for that. So I was like, all right, it's not like this is worse than Crohn's, but it's still pretty shitty. So I was like, Doc, we got to figure out something else. And this was before the pandemic. I got off of it. And then he's like, all right, we'll come back, do some blood work. There's, some other treatments we could try. And I did the blood work. He gave me some recommendations. I said, listen, man, I've been plant-based ever since I've been off. And of course it's the pandemic. So I'm not getting stressed out as much. So that could be a reason as well. I mean, I'd love to talk to you about that since you've had Crohn's for so long, but I know stress is a big factor. So maybe I wasn't stressed. Maybe that's why I haven't had any episodes. But since the pandemic, about almost 2 years, and then, of course, since I've been vegan, nothing. off medication, and I'm fine. So the doctor, of course, has done follow-ups, and he keeps recommending medication. I'm like, but doc, dude, this is going pretty well, bud. Like, I mean, I don't want to throw something in my body that, might give me a bad reaction like the Humira did. I don't know, man. It's funky, and I know it's different for every person, and I can't. Mine's a little bit interesting too. Just to share one more thing with you, because I want to hear about your story as well. But mine's interesting because most Crohn's patients that I talk to, and by the way, I should mention the reason I've been more open about this these last year and a half, 2 years, is because I've read some books and I've watched some videos and some articles and stuff. But no one really seems to have something so public. We share about domestic violence all the time if we're in a domestic dispute with our partner. We share relationships and funny stories and shitty stories, and we share all that type of stuff. But I felt if I shared more about how I'm feeling, it might bring value to other people. And that's a big reason I've been talking about it, especially on the podcast, because I know a lot of people obviously that are listening right now are like, Tony, what the hell? You normally talk about, comic books, and you have friends that are comedians on, and you have YouTubers on, and why the fuck are you talking about Crohn's? I don't care about that. I get it, but for me, it's an outlet to vent, but also there might be one person out of the thousands that listen that might bring some value. So that's a big reason why I started to talk about it. And then, the other thing for me, just going back to being vegan, nothing really affects me when I eat, which is why I say everybody's different. Mine's a little bit funky because when I eat something, normally when you hear most Crohn's patients, you got to go to the bathroom if it doesn't react well, right? That's not the case with me. With me, I won't know for weeks, months, until I get completely built up, because my infection or scarring, or however you want to say it, my intestines right at the bottom. Like, it's the very last 6 inches of my intestines. Gross alert. Sorry, guys, if I'm grossing out. But it's like the last 6 inches, so I won't know until I'm completely full. And then when that happens, my shit closes up like a hose, and nothing goes out. It just starts coming back up. And that's when I got to get rushed to the hospital. So I have maybe 4 hours before it's like, okay, I got a problem. So that's kind of what happens with me. And so usually when I go to the hospital, they throw an NG tube up the nose. And if you ever got that done, it's the worst thing ever. Usually, like, if you have like alcohol poisoning too, they do that. They pump your stomach, but they do that. They clean me out, and yeah, I'm usually in there for like 4 or 5 days. Can't eat anything, and it's brutal, man. So
and that's completely different scenario than from what I've experienced. And so it's interesting, as you mentioned, trying to get the discussion a little bit more open about the disease, because you hear different stories of how people are handling it. And my viewpoint of the disease itself is only through my own lens. So hearing other stories allows me to give bigger, understand the context of the title of a Crohn's disease or IBS in a different light. So
no, man, that's I'm so glad you reached out to, because I actually haven't had anybody on the show that wanted to talk publicly about it. But I think it's so important with any disease you have, right? Whether it's it's cancer, whether it's Crohn's, where it's something that, is just the flu. You look at like what's going on with the pandemic. Imagine if we didn't have social media, we wouldn't know who to listen to, right? But it's good to hear all these different stories of, how did you react to COVID? Oh, how did you? Oh, you got the shot? How'd you react? And it puts people at ease. And I think any disease you have or any illness you have, it's important to share that type of stuff if you feel comfortable, because, it could help somebody, which is important. So
definitely.
I'd love to know more about, so you said you were diagnosed how long ago? When you were a kid, right?
Yeah, when I was about 14, 13.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was young, and of course didn't know what it was, didn't know what was happening. I was coming off of a time period where I broke my leg 2 years prior. And so I was in a cast for 11 months going through that healing process. And in the meantime, with a full cast leg, I wasn't very active. And so I put on a lot of weight, even as a young guy. And so when I got, healthier in my leg, I started dieting a little bit. So the symptoms of that rapid weight loss didn't necessarily correlate directly to maybe Crohn's, because I was dieting or exercising more. And so it's tough to really distinguish and find out, hey, you're shredding a lot of weight right now. What's going on? And so, yeah, I was young, and eventually, every time I eat, I'd be running to the restroom. And so, I had blood in the stools as well. So
Mm.
it was a little scary, but I didn't necessarily know what to do. So I just kind of kept it hidden until others started recognizing my patterns of eating and running to the restroom. And that's when I got diagnosed.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're just a kid. And back
Yeah,
then, I mean, they don't know, they don't know shit now about the disease.
yeah,
They know
exactly.
nothing about the disease now. I can't imagine. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I'm 30.
Yeah, so I'm 36. So when we were kids, they didn't know shit about a lot of stuff, and they still don't know shit about a lot of stuff. So I can't
Sure.
imagine what they were telling you before. I mean, do you remember the first like treatment you got, or anything in particular that goes out?
Uh, yeah, so I don't remember too much. Of course, my parents, my mom especially, was the one who was guiding my diet and having, more of the in-depth conversations with the doctors at those times.
Sure.
I was in the hospital, of course, initially to get some fluids in me, get some energy built back up. And after that, they gave us a list of do's and don'ts, and she kept me hard to those don'ts. And so, a year later, after I did my first checkup with my doctor, I mean, the diet that I was on was baked chicken, pretty much no condiments, um, almost no salt and pepper. As bland as you could keep things is what I ate. And I think my reading improved tremendously from just reading ingredient labels on food.
For real.
You know, yeah, everything I was reading, everything, and really trying to understand it, how it reacted to my body. But I give credit to my parents, my friends who were there supporting me because they never put me in a situation where I was gonna impact myself in the wrong way by eating the wrong thing. Everyone was a great support system. I mean, if I even wanted like a cheeseburger, my friends would probably slap it out of my hand, knowing that I shouldn't eat
That's
that.
cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
But
Because
yeah, coming into
that's the big worry, right? Is especially when we have this disease. People again aren't really educated on it. But I think once people do get educated, a lot of my friends would act that way as well. So it's important to have a support system. And if you don't have that support system, or your friends aren't supportive of that, I've just learned from my experience just to avoid them at all costs. I mean, it sounds horrible, but it's very similar to like if you have that one friend that is super negative, that talks horrible about their day and they hate their job and their life and their relationship and that toxic attitude. You don't want to be around that person. It's kind of the same thing when you have something like a Crohn's or maybe an IBS. If you can't be surrounded by people that when they book a restaurant, they're not looking at the menu,
yeah,
and taken out for it, I think it's important to not be around those people. I realize that as well. If you're vegan or vegetarian, that's a choice, right? So
yeah,
like, I'm not asking my friends to be like, oh, let's only go to vegan spots. No, man, it's a choice for me to be vegan, but let's not go to a bar cart that only serves greasy hamburgers and French fries when I got Crohn's. Like, don't invite me to
yeah.
that shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
Yeah,
to your point too, I mean, it's doctor recommendations. It's not just a personal choice either. So it's great to have that support system and buy-in. So yeah, thankfully after my first year, my checkup, yeah, the doctor was really pleased with the results I've had, and that all came through diet. And I was on Humira and prednisone as well, so I was pretty heavily on the medication, and then slowly started winding myself off of it over the number of years. And yeah, I mean, the medication definitely helped,
yeah,
but I think since then I've been feeling fantastic.
yeah. No, that's great to hear. And then what are you doing for? So you're off prednisone and Humira completely?
Yeah, I've been off,
Oh, that's awesome.
gosh, for almost 7 years now, 8 years.
Oh wow, good for you. That's
Yeah,
great,
thank
man.
you.
So you haven't been on any medication for 7 years.
Haven't been on any medication for 7 years, and
That's
my
awesome.
diet could probably be better. I'm conscious. I live with
Sure.
consequences that maybe I bring about myself.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just trying to live life to enjoy
Yeah,
myself.
man. No, that's the important thing. And as long as you could manage it in a way, I've realized as well, to where I know that the hardest thing for me, and I think this goes with any diseases, the hardest thing for me was to accept that there's nothing you could do. that was the hardest thing because, especially with this, it's autoimmune disease, right? So, you're going to lose weight. You have a weak immune system. It's just how it is. And I'm big into working out and being active, but sometimes the body tells you to stop. And I've realized over the years, I even used to be a personal trainer. So, that was almost 6 years of my adult life when I was 18 up until my early 20s. And it was hard for me to stop working out. Like I have to calm down. I can't work out every day because my body would get stressed out. Obviously your body's trying to build muscle, after you work out, and the calories that you intake, it's got to divert those to those muscle fibers, but your body's doing a lot of work. And what you don't realize when you have Crohn's and other autoimmune disease is every minute of every day it's fighting this disease off. So the less work you have it do on that, and the more work you have it do on, building muscle fibers, and maybe you're stressed out, and you got things going on in your body and all that type of stuff. That means your body's fighting off that shit, and it's not fighting off, this disease. So that was the hard thing for me, was I had to calm down working out, and it pissed me off so much. And I had to literally sit and almost kind of do like, meditation and just say, there's nothing I could do. I just got to live life, and I can't worry about it. And if I go out to dinner, I can't get stressed. If I want to eat something, I need to know the consequence, but also I don't want to stress out about it either. Because, sometimes there was a period of my life, probably about 2 years ago, where I was eating pretty much anything I wanted, and I would have episodes, obviously. And then there was a moment in that 2 year time frame where I would eat very healthy. Like you said, no condiments, no seasonings. I'm cautious. I cooked at home. I didn't go out. I didn't drink alcohol. Like, I was very strict, and I was still having episodes. And I'm like, what what is happening? And, again, like my doctor said it best. He goes, your body's going to do what it's going to do. And that was the moment where it was like, oh, so I could do all the right things and it's still going to happen. And that was the hardest thing to kind of grasp. And I literally just grasped that about 2 years ago, where I was like, I'm going to do what I got to do. And it is what it is. It's just a disease you got to live with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's how you cope with it. For me, a lot of it's managing and, planning ahead. So of course, I'm very situationally aware. I'm sure you are, and others listening who may be dealing with similar conditions. Your head's on a swivel, kind of knowing where you're at and where you might need to stop.
That's right.
And just listening to your body, what you're making a point to earlier, is crucial. And it's always interesting. I talk to my friends that anytime I may get injured, I always say, like, okay, I'm really gonna have to, like, when I say injury, I mean like maybe a cut or a bruise, mountain biking, doing something. I'm like, I gotta take it easy for at least a week or two. Like,
That's
why?
right.
I'm like, well, as my body's healing here, my digestive fighters are probably working on this rather than my stomach, and so I need to take it easy a little bit.
That's right.
So yeah, it's great to find that correlation for yourself, that we gotta listen to the body, and we only have so many things that could help fight off these pains and issues and keeping us healthy, that you gotta really listen to what's going on.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. The body is such a strange thing. I mean, it's so it's so weird because it's so powerful, but it's so weak. We don't realize how fragile the body is, and it does everything it can to fight off everything that happens. And we don't realize that 24/7 it's doing something. Even when you're sleeping, it's doing something, right? So it's okay to kind of take a break and relax. And the one thing that I've been doing a lot lately, I don't know if you've tried this, but is intermittent fasting. I used to do it a lot when I was a trainer, except I don't think we called it that. We just called it starving yourself or something. Like, now it's a trendy word, is intermittent fasting, which, by the way, is very funny because I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting. But it's funny that other countries don't even eat as many meals as we do. And we're inventing diets to have us eat less. It's it's so crazy. Yeah.
We gotta get rid of that food pyramid from grade
Oh
school,
my
right?
God, that was the worst. And
Exactly.
that's another thing that's super interesting is when we talk so much about eating right, and that's a big factor of a disease like this, or like IBS, or a lot of stuff. But even with you know, when women are trying to get pregnant, or if you know, older men or older women are slightly obese, the one thing the doctor tells you to do is, you know, hey, this is what you should eat, right? These are the healthy foods that you should. But why aren't we doing that all the time? Why is it only if we become pregnant, or only if we become obese, or only if we have IBS? It's so strange how more often than not, doctors will say, yeah, just eliminate dairy and you'll probably feel better.
Mhm.
Wait, what? You've been telling me to eat dairy for 30 years. Like, what's happening here? It's so strange.
Exactly.
It makes no
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But the diet thing is super interesting to me. But with intermittent fasting, I've realized that I've kind of forgot a little bit about my diet and don't focus on it too much, because my whole struggle, at least with my disease, is giving my intestines a break. So just going back to intermittent fasting, I think diet's extremely important, but I also think no matter if you have a disease like this or not, giving your intestines a break is huge, because we don't really think about it on a daily basis. But, you know, aside from breastfeeding as a child, right? So let's say now you're starting to have like some real foods and applesauce and things like that. So from the age of 1 or 2 all the way to now you're 30 years old. So for 28, 30 years, you've been eating nonstop, you know, every 4 hours for your whole life. So your body's just constantly digesting things and spreading out proteins and enzymes, and it's doing this. Oh, and then it's got to digest it. Oh, stomach acid is going up. Okay, I get a 4-hour break. Now I got to do it all over again. So your body is literally working all day, every day. So intermittent fasting is great because it just gives you depending on what you do, I like to do a 16-hour fast. So I'll eat like at 7 p.m. would be my dinner, would be my last dinner. And then I won't eat again until 1 p.m. the next day.
Yeah.
So I'll have like black coffee, or I'll have, you know, maybe occasionally I'll do like a celery juice or something like that, something that's easy on the digestive system. But I do that probably 3-4 days a week, and I feel fantastic every time I do it.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense what you're talking about with the digestive system, and it's a working muscle and it's getting to town. So give it a break.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's no different than working out, right? Because it's a muscle, like you said. So, you know, you can't work out biceps every day. That's idiotic.
Yeah.
You got to give it some rest.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's your current diet now? Do you have a quote unquote regimen that you follow? Or I hate the word diet, but do you, because it says that we have to, like, a diet is always, you know, typically eating better, right?
Yes.
So I don't know
Yeah.
why we call that the diet. Like, that should be the standard.
Exactly.
So
So
weird.
what am I like consistently eating? You know, it really varies. Just everything's in moderation for myself.
Mm.
I have too many food items I don't eat anymore. I definitely stay away from maybe some of the milk. I didn't really enjoy that too much anyways. And if I do eat any dairy, I always take lactate pills as well. So that helps myself.
Now, are you
And
lactose intolerant, or you just do it as a precaution?
yeah, I take it more as a precaution.
Right.
So, you know, the symptoms of taking dairy has just been, you know, some cramping, using the restroom, those types of things. And what I found, taking a lactate pill has helped suppress some of those symptoms as well. So,
Interesting.
uh, yeah, and everything else in moderation: red meat, fish, chicken, peanuts. You know, it's
Everything.
it's
Yeah.
a free for all for me. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Everything
stay
in
away from
moderation.
fried foods as much as possible. You know,
Yeah.
of course, I'll have some French fries, and you know, I definitely have a little bit of sweet tooth too. But
Yeah.
you know, again, moderation.
Moderation's key. Yeah. And do you
Yeah.
find yourself, is there certain foods that react to you differently? Do you still eat those foods, or have you eliminated those?
You know, in all
Just
honesty,
kind
of
of
course,
like up and down?
yeah, up and down. I've kept a dietary book for a number of years and really try to see where I was eating and finding any correlation between my condition and how I was feeling to what I was eating, and couldn't really pinpoint anything down. So
Yeah.
I think too that there's a little bit more than just the diet. It's stress. There's other factors that could play into how we feel and how we process food as well.
Yeah, man. It's definitely shitty that we don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because, you know, that was my biggest worry is, you know, now that I'm primarily plant based, and you know, it might be maybe it's a plant that bothers me, you know. I mean, I try to stay away from like the high fiber stuff to, again, just give my intestines a break, like the broccolis of the world and cauliflower and all that, and like roughage, like lettuce and spinach. I kind of do that in moderation because I don't want to go too heavy on that. But maybe that's it. I'll never know unless I mean, literally I'll have to eat like red meat every single day for 30 days, see how I feel, and then chicken every 30 days and that's it. Right. And no red meat. It's just like, there's no way to know. And doctors, unfortunately, don't have the technology right now to figure this, like many diseases, out. So it's kind of frustrating on that end because, again, every person is different and every person reacts differently. But yeah, no, it's quite annoying for sure.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt.
So what do you like to do on your free time?
Yeah, so I'm a control consultant for a public health products and services company. We focus on mosquito control products and service.
Awesome.
And it really like sort of fits a little bit of my background, which is in environmental science. I have minors in biology, climate change, interdisciplinary studies. And this last spring, graduated from FAU with my background. Got my MBA from FAU. You know, mosquito control is a public service that is warranted and needed, especially in other parts of the world. We do work over in Brazil, Africa,
Oh, wow.
Puerto Rico, Mexico. Yeah. And so where you see those living conditions and it's really difficult and the death count is really high from things like dengue, malaria, um, being able to suppress those numbers and keep those people protected definitely gives purpose to the job.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
especially, you look at tons of diseases that are popping up all over the world. I mean, most of
Yep.
that is created by either animals or insects. So, we don't want to, again, I get this argument from the vegan community all the time. I strongly believe that we are contributors to changing the climate. But the world's going to do what the world's going to do. It's going to constantly evolve, and there's tons of organisms that are at play that we don't even understand or know about yet that are contributing to the Earth's future. But we definitely are taking years off its life. I mean, that's just plain to see, right? So, and that goes with everything. I mean, everything has a shelf life. So I get the attitude of, what can we do to fix tomorrow? Well, not a lot, but there's little steps we can do every day to increase the shelf life, so that way this thing that we're living on will last thousands of years instead of hundreds. So,
Yep.
but it's funny. I always get this argument from the vegan community because I also believe in population control,
Hmm.
not with humans, by the way, just
Yeah.
insects and animals, and because if we didn't have population control, or if we didn't have these cities or companies like yourself that go out and protect these other countries from mosquitoes that could potentially carry certain diseases. I mean, look at Zika, right? Look what happened to Zika. I mean, it's important that we do protect human beings over animals. Not saying we're superior or better, but we have the technology and they don't. So,
Hmm.
if we didn't do what we did for California hundreds of years ago, there would still be grizzly bears in California just roaming around LA. I mean, but now there's no more grizzly bears because of we controlled them, right? So we separated them. So have you ever been to
Yeah.
California? It's awesome. It's definitely worth. I'm glad they migrated the bears out of there.
Yes.
In fact, I think their flag has the bear still on it, which is so funny because there's 0 bears in California.
Yeah. Everything has a carrying capacity,
That's
and
right.
that's what
Yeah.
you gotta kind of work within. And with us, we could continue to increase our resources and through technology and innovation to continue to raise that bar and work with other species as well to help increase their habitat, their areas of living, to continue to increase their populations. And again, everything has a healthy balance.
That's right. So obviously, with your background in climate change, you said biology, right? You have
Yes.
an MBA. So what do you think we're contributing the most? If you had to like kind of pinpoint a couple things, what do you think we can do? Because that's people's biggest concern, right? Is what can I do as a human being every day? I'm not going to go to conventions and I'm not going to speak at conferences about it, but what can I do as a human to, slow down this process that we're in with heating up the earth?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I probably don't have a great answer to. But what I'd say is it's difficult because we always look for like a return on investment. So if I do this today, how do I know it's going to actually pay off in the future? And
That's
you're
right.
looking for that. what's that end game going to be for me to invest into it today? Whereas I just say, from an individual standpoint, uh, be a good person,
Right.
enjoy what you're doing, be conscious. And I think consciousness brings about a lot of our daily activity. It's
Mm,
lost in a lot of things that are automated nowadays. And I
true.
think if we could continue to just be conscious of our actions, try to think of, the raw sources or resources that it took to create these products that you handle on a daily basis, and think about how you can mitigate some of these transactions throughout your everyday life. If it's walking a little bit more rather than driving, or riding your bike more, I think all those small actions could increase your own perspective of how you're viewing your part of climate change. I think it will eventually have an overall like net value
Sure.
at the end of the day if we're all doing that. But I'd say just, minimize where you can. Don't live above your needs, and enjoy yourself and enjoy
Yeah.
time with family and friends.
Yeah, man, that's well said, and that's what I try to tell people as well. It's a big reason why I started this podcast is to do what I can to, not just spread knowledge, but just spread, positivity, and hopefully people understand that we're so lucky to be on this planet. It's like a trillion to one that we even exist.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of think of, like, I love how you said with the ROI, because it is funny that we always think about that, right? Like, you post a picture on Instagram and, you open it up 5 minutes later, and if you only have one like, you freak out because you're like, well, why did I post that? Did I do something wrong? Did I not say this? Did I not do this caption? It's like, no, man, you're living, the wrong way here. I think going outside, like you said, and I've really been enjoying nature as much as I can, and I've been sweating more
Mm.
outside, which is weird to say because I think I got so comfortable the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years of my life, probably around the same time Netflix came out. So that makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. But
Mm.
I've always been comfortable being inside and doing shit inside and, eating dinner inside. But now I like eating dinner outside, and I like sweating a little bit, and I like smelling the grass, and I like walking
Mhm.
around, and I like getting my feet dirty. I've been doing that a lot more because I feel there is a connection we have to this earth. I mean, we're all, depending on what you believe in, we won't go down that road just yet, Daryl, maybe in another podcast. But
Yeah.
depending on what you believe in and where we came from, we were all part of this earth in some micro form that we don't even know and can't really comprehend.
Right.
So we were born on this earth, however you feel that happened. So we're part of it. I mean, it's just a fact. And the more you spend on earth and enjoying Earth's atmosphere, as opposed to being inside and disconnected from Earth, I think you're going to get a lot of meaning out of it. And it's going to be better. And when you talk about the ROI, it's a good example that I always tell people when they, well, like, why do I need to, buy a Tesla? Why don't I just drive everywhere? Who cares? I'm not going to see this tomorrow. And I go, okay, are you married? Yeah, I'm married. Okay, well, why don't you be an asshole to your wife? Go ahead, just be an asshole every day. Well, we might get divorced. I go, interesting. So what you do on a daily basis is going to help you long term be married to the love of your life. That's how you got to think of this earth. I mean, yeah, you don't know if we're going to make it. Just
Yeah.
like you don't know you're going to be married forever. I mean, it's just you have to make these baby steps every day to, treat the person you want to be with very nice so it lasts
Yeah.
forever. Same thing with earth. Yeah, that's how I kind of
Yeah.
look at it.
100%. Couldn't agree more with you on that. And, for me, really, there's been a great connection between my Crohn's and how I got to where I am, where,
Mm,
outdoors was sort of an escape. Like, I felt more comfortable out there. I felt, I don't want to say alone, but I felt just comfortable. If it's just going for a hike, riding a bike or whatnot, that's where I felt most at ease. And the gut and the brain communicate to each other. And so,
totally.
if you're in a good mind space when you're out there outdoors, enjoying yourself, being connected to nature, then my stomach was feeling good. And,
That's so
having
funny.
that correlation and recognizing that is the reason why I got into environmental science, environmental studies, and wanted to take this path of conservation and land management down the road. Um, but yeah, I think it's fantastic to really recognize where your mindset is, in your given space, and then how that ultimately could impact your stomach.
That's so interesting you say that. Yes, you realize that going outside and being active, it definitely helps you, right? Puts you at ease.
Yeah, yeah,
What do you, what do you,
100%.
what do you think that is? Is it more like a meditation piece to you? Do you go out there and just do you listen? Or are you throwing in some music and it's just the breeze? Like what happens to you? You think?
I think it's just feeling that sunshine on your skin, feeling a little bit of that burn, getting a little bit of that sweat going,
Yeah.
feeling your heartbeat a little bit more. I think it's all healthy. I think it's all bringing us in tune with everything around us, from our surrounding to how we're feeling personally. Again, I have read tons of books on meditation, practiced meditation myself, became a certified health coach, and so really bringing about a form of consciousness over a number of years is what I've been focusing on, and dropping the ego, and
Mm.
just being outside kind of puts me in this vulnerable but comfortable situation.
That's good to hear, man. And I've tried meditation myself. I can't seem to calm down on my brain. It's outrageous, and I think a lot of it has to do with I do so many things, aside
Mm.
from work, and I do this, and I like to edit and create, and I do a bunch of stuff. So I probably should cut that shit out as well because I know that is going through my head. But what do you typically do for meditation? Is it something you practice every day? Is it yoga? Like what do you do?
Typically not something I do every day in the in the what people think of typical meditation
Right.
form, sitting there like no, it's really just kind of closing the eyes, taking a couple breaths, and just hearing the breaths. And it could be as simple as that in a quiet place right before I start work
Um,
in the morning.
that's
And
all you
then in
need,
the
right? I mean,
afternoon, yeah. And then in the afternoon, just simply walking and around the block, even. And for me, it's just kind of like looking at some nature, a tree, a bush, lizard running
wow.
across the street, whatever it may be, and then just having a greater and deeper understanding of like what's really going on. And to your point of, the odds of us even being here are amazing, and it makes you feel really small, but makes you feel special as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's huge, man. Because all the research I've done on meditation, it tells you certain things and techniques and things to do. But the one thing I found that works for me personally is just being, like you said, disconnected from everything. And I guess in that case, I do meditate because every morning I wake up and I think about the day in silence. I don't look at my phone for the first hour and a half, 2 hours that I'm up. I drink water right away, because we're 70% water. So the first thing I do is I get up. I'll go, if I don't have water already on my nightstand, I drink water immediately, at least like 4 to 6 ounces. And I'll just drink that nice and slow. I'll take my time and I'll talk about the day to myself. And then I'll say some type of mantra, and it's different every day. I think that's huge as well. Just doing something, if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just disconnecting yourself from everything else and just being alone in your own thoughts and gathering yourself, getting ready for the day, I think is important. Some people do it at night. Some people do it throughout the day. I kind of do it when I need to do it. So to your
Mhm.
point, not doing it every day, when I feel like shit's getting a little bit wicked, that's when I know I'm like, all right, I need to meditate. I need to just step
Yeah.
aside for a second. It's almost like you ever been in an argument with your girl and she'll walk away and you're super pissed about it and you're like, oh, but then you realize now that
Yeah.
I'm like a little bit older, I realize, oh, she was walking away because she didn't want to deal with my dumb ass. Oh, that's kind of like meditation is how I look at it, where it's like if you have something shitty going on in your day, if you just disconnect and get away from everything and you're just alone
Yeah.
in your thoughts, you can really like take your time and think about things or maybe appreciate things depending on what you're into for meditation.
Yeah. It's not like a light bulb needs to come on every single time to where
Yeah.
like you get these epiphanies. It's just simply like you're saying, just taking a quick break and
Right.
just resetting a little bit of where you're at within the situation and coming back to it a little bit later if need be. And yeah, it doesn't need to be this big thing of you know
Yeah.
15 minutes a day, uh, this big epiphany like you're talking about. It's just uh,
Yeah, like
change
we
your
always
mood, change your attitude.
I think what people are scared about meditation is, you have to shut off your brain and then you should have nothing in your mind. Like no,
Yeah.
that might be some people's view on what meditation is, but all these words that we're saying, you and I, like even this sentence that I'm speaking right now, all these words are made up before us, and someone told us that this was the word. Same thing with meditation. Okay, meditation's a thing. I get it. But whoever invented meditation before Gandhi, before everyone else, before monks, before all that, someone said this was meditation and someone listened. And then it's been diluted since then. We don't really know if it does anything. It could just be all mental. You know, it could be you sitting back and doing XYZ calms your brain down and does something, you know, with the endorphins, and we don't even know. Like, we'll never know. The brain is so, we know nothing about our brain. Scientists work every day on this, and we still have very little understanding of what this fucking thing is. And the fact that one word and doing one thing is going to make you feel better is probably a little far-fetched. You know, it's like working out, right? Like me being a trainer, I always use this as an example because when I was 18, I was a trainer and I got certified. Well, what I learned back then, they're telling people different now because they learn new information. But back then they were so confident. They're like, oh yeah, you have to do this to work out. You have to, this is how you lose weight. This is how you burn calories. But now it's like something completely different. And I'm like, Jesus. So we're learning new things every day. So it's almost like take everything with a grain of salt. Just do what's good for you. You know, be happy when you're doing it. And whatever makes you happy is important. You don't have to listen to these meditation YouTube videos to really get the full meditation of it.
Exactly. Yep. All goes back to just listen to your body, know your body.
Yeah, man. Did I ask you this already, but are you dating anybody? You married?
Yeah. So I'm dating. I have a girlfriend. Been dating
Congrats.
for 3.5 years. Yeah. Thank you. We moved in together December of 2019. So in about 4 months, we didn't realize, but we were also going to be coworkers. But everything worked out well, and still happy together.
Well, which, by the way, you survived the pandemic.
Yes, exactly.
Which is huge. And that's
yeah.
what me and the wife said. I mean, we got married in, I'm forgetting. She'll kill me. Hopefully she won't listen to this. No, but we got married 3 years ago, and you know, so literally within a year and a half and then boom, this pandemic happened, right? So we're like, all right, if we could make it through this pandemic, we're good. Because we're stuck in a room, you know, stuck in a house for, 18 months. We're good. So as long as you made it through that, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't see much more stopping us from this point on, so it's all
awesome.
good.
And you're in West Palm, you said, yeah?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Okay.
West Palm over
I love
here.
it over there.
It's beautiful. I'm originally from Broward County, a little bit further south.
Okay.
But just being on the east coast of Florida, you got so many things to do. It's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Now I'm over in Tampa, Apollo Beach, but I used to live in Fort Lauderdale, so yeah, I know the area very well. It's so great. We're very lucky with Florida because all the stuff that we're talking about, going outside and getting sun and sweat, like we could do that year long, even during the winter. It's great to be outside. Most people are like, hey, I wish I could do that because they're stuck at Colorados or the New Yorks of the world, and they're like, 3-4 months out of the year, I got to stay home because it's a shit show out there and black ice is everywhere. I get that. So we're very fortunate, very lucky. And do you see, as Florida, now it's starting to open and the pandemic is essentially being eradicated, it seems like, at least where I'm at in my county. But how are things down there? Are there mask mandates? Are people a little bit more careful? Are they still wearing the mask? How are you seeing things?
Yeah, I think it's public preference.
Sure.
I see some people in the grocery stores wearing them. Some people aren't. Restaurants or local businesses are saying, it's recommended, but not,
Mandated.
Mandatory. So yeah, I think we're getting there. I'd say very fortunate throughout the whole thing. This area has done a great job of trying to keep things as normal as possible or just as adjusted to the new norm as possible. And all the policies in place to keep things open. I mean, the gym I go to was open throughout the whole pandemic, which was a huge release and an area for us to go and escape from the house and work. And the state parks opened up after a couple months of being shut down. So just being able to go out to the beach and things like that during the whole pandemic was a great escape for us here locally that maybe others can't necessarily relate to.
No, that's so true. And, again, I think we're lucky because, studies came out after a few months saying that, vitamin D and C is crucial to fighting off COVID. So again, in Florida, we're a little bit spoiled because we get that year long. But I did find that out as well. I didn't get COVID, and there's a few people that I know that did, and those are the folks that are a little bit less active, and they don't spend a lot of time outside, and they don't do a lot of things that's good for their body already. So as much as this pandemic kind of sucked for the whole world, I think it was kind of eye-opener for a lot of people because, now you're listening to doctors and people that are saying, hey, do this, do that. This is going to make you, feel better and potentially not get not just COVID, but maybe any other virus that is an influenza type of virus. And we should have been doing this forever ago. Like, you should be washing your hands after you take a piss. Like you should wipe down the counters. I had a podcast that I just launched this past week with a couple buddies of mine, and we talked about this topic for about 20 minutes because it's so funny how you go to a restaurant now and there's signs saying after each meal, we'll have a server clean the table, and they're going through these steps, and I'm like, wait a minute, what were you doing like 2 years ago? Were you not doing that?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've flown yet, but I've been on the airplane multiple times. Have you seen the table that you drop? It's sparkling.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never seen this table so clean. And so I'm just thinking back of all the travel I did when it was like a bubble gum still stuck to it and just some dirt. And back then it was just kind of accepted.
Right.
But now the cleaning process and sanitation is fantastic. And you can actually put your hands on it. You actually want to eat off of it.
Yeah.
But where was that previously?
That's right. Yeah, it's so funny because it, again, that I think that opened our eyes a little bit. So it might have been good that, we as earthlings just got too comfortable with each other. And, we're gross. I mean, humans are disgusting. We're gross people. We run these vehicles on the street and we hit each other and honk at each other. And we spit on the ground, and we do gross shit. And hopefully this is a new practice to where it's like, all right, guys, we know how important it could be to be clean and to be healthy and to work out and to not be overweight, because that was a big thing with the pandemic, right? Was, if you're going to get COVID if you're overweight or if you have an underlying condition. Well, most of those underlying conditions that, we talk about, unless it's hereditary, maybe like a type 1 diabetes or something, but like type 2 diabetes typically is caused by overeating and obesity, right? So, the fact that you have that, this is a wake-up call saying, oh, wait a minute, if it's not COVID, it might be something else that's gonna, could be another disease that comes out. And we have to take care of ourselves, and, we have to treat ourselves like it's the only body we have, because it is.
It is. Exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't say it better.
Definitely. Yeah, it is funny because we just got back from Miami and we did fly a plane, so I could relate a lot about what you're saying. We just got back a week ago, and it's so weird at an airport. It's because it's so clean.
I know. It's great. I love traveling now.
It's awesome. I just hope it stays that way because I even have videos where I post. This was great about social media, and there's only one thing that's good about social media. Everything else sucks. But the one thing that's cool is you can reflect and look back on things that you did before. And just for shits and gigs, I went back to like a video that I posted, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago when we were on our honeymoon. And it was a whole vlog that I did and I put on YouTube. And, there's video of us like going to an airport and going on a plane. And just the video that I see that was shit was happening at the airport on that video 3-4 years ago would never happen now. Kids are like throwing things on the floor and no one's masked up and they're like licking balcony doors, and it's just like, what is happening? We were so gross. So I'm so happy that we've kind of woke up a little bit and hopefully are doing the right things.
I agree. Yeah, I think we are as a society moving forward to look out for each other and then looking out for our individual selves as well.
That's it, man. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, listen, dude, we covered a lot longer than I thought we were going to go. I could probably go a little bit more with you, but I got to hop on another call, but we're almost at an hour already.
I appreciate making time for me. This popped up relatively quick. It was just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, sent you the email. So appreciate you making this happen.
No, dude, it's a pleasure. And I love, I'd love to get you on again, or, if you have any friends, I mean, feel free to share. Cause, for me, the one thing that is great with this podcast that I'm really starting to appreciate more is I don't know a lot at all. I know like 2 or 3 things good, and that's
Yeah.
like eating right and being healthy. And I like to think I treat people nice. So those are like the things that I know for sure that I'm good at. Everything else, I don't really know shit. Like I'm pretty stupid. But one thing I love about this podcast is it allows me to talk to people that I don't know. And I've had more people on the podcast that I've, like yourself, that reached out to me or I reached out to them that I've never met before. And I learned so much from you today. And I just like doing this podcast because of that, because I could grab a couple nuggets and, I could use that to my benefit. So it's my pleasure really to have you on. I'd love to have you on again. And it's cool to hear your story. And thank you for sharing that. And I definitely want to talk a little bit more about it because I think it's important that people have this discussion about Crohn's and what we could do to combat this shitty disease.
Yeah, no, thank you for putting out this message. And yeah, there's a website, My Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and there's a couple ways in which people could connect with each other out there on a platform that they know people feel comfortable or going through similar challenges, and just being a part of that as well, sharing positivity on those posts is important as well to lift up some who may not be able to listen or know about this podcast yet. So for those out there listening, check that out and get in contact, share some positivity.
Yeah, man, absolutely. No, good call. And I'll definitely check that out. And I'll leave your LinkedIn in the description as well. So this will be available, on Apple, Spotify, all that. So I'll leave Daryl's description there. So if you guys want to, connect with him on LinkedIn, he's on LinkedIn. And Daryl, it was great talking to you, man. I'm glad you're a Florida local. Hopefully, if I ever get down there again, once things get popping up, I'd love to do this in person and we could shoot the shit and get to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, Tony. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks,
man. Enjoy your weekend, bud.
All right, you too. Bye.